Have you ever felt completely alone in a room full of people? This is the paradox of loneliness, a deeply personal and universal human experience. It's a feeling that doesn't discriminate, seizing us in the most unexpected moments. It could be in the midst of a bustling party, at a family gathering, or even while working in a busy office. Loneliness is unique to each of us, a complex interplay of emotions, not merely the absence of company. Loneliness is more than just being alone, it's a complex emotional state. For a clearer understanding, consider this personal story. There was a time in my life when I lived in a bustling city, surrounded by millions of people. You'd think in such a place it would be impossible to feel alone, right? But that's the paradox of loneliness. It doesn't necessarily mean being physically alone. It's more about feeling disconnected, unseen, unheard. One ordinary evening, after a long day at work, I found myself walking through the city's crowded streets. The city was alive with its usual rhythm, the chatter of people, the honking of cars, the distant music from a nearby cafe. Yet amidst this cacophony, I felt a strange sense of isolation. I was surrounded by life and yet felt utterly alone. I reached my apartment and looked around at the four walls that made up my world. The silence was deafening. It was not the peaceful silence you seek after a long day, but a silence that screamed of solitude, a silence that echoed my loneliness. I realized that even though I was constantly surrounded by people, I felt unseen, as though I was fading into the background of my own life. I was a part of so many conversations, but felt unheard. I was there, but it was as if I wasn't. This feeling of loneliness wasn't just about being alone. It was about feeling disconnected from the world around me, feeling detached from the rhythm of life. It was about the emotional void that no amount of socializing could fill, the psychological chasm that seemed to grow wider with each passing day. At times, I would find myself staring at the city skyline, a myriad of lights flickering in the distance, each representing a life, a story. I couldn't help but wonder how many of those lights were like me, alone amidst a crowd, feeling disconnected in a world that is more connected than ever. And that, my friends, was a moment of profound loneliness. But what exactly is happening in our minds when we feel lonely? Well, let's delve into the psychological aspects of loneliness. When we experience loneliness, our minds can become a labyrinth of distorted perceptions. We may misinterpret social cues, assume people are not interested in us, or even feel invisible in a crowd. This skewed perception can lead us to withdraw further, creating a vicious cycle of loneliness and isolation. Loneliness is also closely linked to our actions. It can make us hypersensitive to rejection or exclusion, causing us to act defensively or avoid social interactions altogether. These actions can actually perpetuate our loneliness, as they can lead to further isolation and misunderstandings with others. But loneliness doesn't just affect our perceptions and actions. It can have a significant impact on our mental health as well. Persistent feelings of loneliness can lead to conditions like depression, anxiety, and increased stress levels. It can also contribute to harmful behaviors such as substance abuse or self-neglect. Moreover, chronic loneliness can impact our cognitive functions. It can lead to difficulties in concentration, memory loss, and even an increased risk of mental health disorders like Alzheimer's disease. Understanding the psychological aspects of loneliness is crucial in finding effective ways to combat it. It's important to remember that loneliness is not just a fleeting feeling, but a complex psychological state that can significantly affect our mental and emotional well-being. So, loneliness isn't just an emotional state, it can also have a profound impact on our mental health. So, we've talked about loneliness, but what can we do about it? Loneliness, as we've discovered, isn't just a fleeting feeling. It's a complex psychological state that can differ greatly from person to person. It's a universal experience, yes, but it's also deeply personal. We've traversed the landscape of loneliness, from its initial recognition to the heavy weight it can bear on our souls. We've dissected its psychological underpinnings, delved into the intricacies of its emotional resonance. Now it's time to explore how we can manage it. Coping mechanisms can range from introspection, journaling, and mindfulness practices to seeking out social connections, hobbies, or professional help. It's crucial to remember that seeking help, whether from friends, family, or a mental health professional, isn't a sign of weakness. Remember, it's okay to feel lonely. What matters is how we respond to it.